So that's footage of my dad. He is 81 this year, and he's been working out pretty much every day. He's in the military, 20 years, worked for the government, but he always, he instilled in me too, just always keeping your body in shape. So I don't know most 81-year-olds that could take a fall like that. I mean, he hit the ground hard. I thought I was gonna have to call an ambulance. I was actually on the phone with a client for work. I hung straight up on him because I was figuring I was gonna have to make a tourniquet, take him to the hospital. He took that fall like a champ.
I don't think I've ever told my dad what an inspiration he is to me. He was really hard on me, but looking back, I'm glad he was. It made me the person I am today. I emulated him. I watched him as I was growing up. He was in the military. He was always keeping his body in shape. And by watching him, kids really do imitate their parents. So your kids are always watching you. I make sure my kids see that this is the kind of person that you want to be, strong. Don't let things get in your way. There's always going to be obstacles. It all comes down to how you handle it and being prepared. And I like to keep my body and my mind in shape the best I can. I'm 44 years old. I'm probably in the best shape of my life, and a lot of it is because of my dad.
I wanted to talk today about practical application. I've been working out all my life, and a lot of the times I'll see guys in the gym that are really strong. But when it comes to applying that strength to like real life situations or like running, for example, they can't do it. That's why I practice. I mean, I do lift weights, but I mix movement into most every one of my workouts. So I'm going to tell a little story about something that happened recently to me. So I have a greenhouse in my backyard, and I have ADD really bad. So I was watching TikTok and I saw a video of this guy that dug an underground greenhouse, which looked awesome to me. I'm not a structural engineer, but I was like, oh, that looks pretty easy. So I started digging, and I was hand shovel digging. I don't know the fuck. I was digging with a hand shovel. It took me months. I dug down probably close to 8 feet, probably 6 feet across, 6.5 feet across, 8 feet deep. And I made stairs, and it was taking me like, I started last winter. I started again this summer, and I was busting my ass. I had my kids helping me, and I was like, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to have an underground greenhouse because the temperature stays the same all year round. That way I can grow stuff all year round. And the greenhouse that they built on this TikTok video was beautiful. But again, I am not an engineer. I'm okay. I'm like, okay, I'm handy, but I wouldn't say I'm great at building things. My best friend is awesome at building things. But I mean, if somebody shows me how to do something, I can do it. So I watched the video a bunch of times. I was like, I can do this. Well, anyway, I'm working on it, and then I'm thinking I have to start shoring the walls up. So I started putting like logs and stuff, like shoring the walls up. But all of a sudden, a big rainstorm hits, and I'm talking huge. So the sides of my son said, "There's something going on with the greenhouse." I'm like, it'll be fine. So I put these plastic like dog kennel things. There was a little gap on each side that had the water had been eroding and kind of making the walls fall in, and it was getting worse and worse. That's why I started shoring up the sides. So I put these plastic dog kennel things on top of the sides to cover in case it rained. Well, I guess the water got too heavy for one of them on the right side, and it just went. My son saw it go down. He said, there's a flood in the yard. I'm like, nah, it'll be all right. I look out and I'm like, holy shit, there's a waterfall, like a 3-foot hole opened up on the side of the greenhouse, and water is just pouring in. I mean, we got like hurricane rains that day, and it looked like a waterfall, literally a waterfall. I'm panicking. It's getting closer and closer to the house. Like the ground's just falling in. It looked like something you see on TV, like a fucking landslide in my yard. So I'm like, holy shit. The water's like 3 feet deep now in the hole. I'm like panicking, like, what am I going to do? I'm like, all right, this is what you got to do. You got to build a dam. You got to build a dam if you got fucking water coming in. So I'm like, I get my whole family together. I'm like, look, this is going to erode all the way to the house. We have to stop this now. I need everybody on board. And my kids are like all scared, like, So we go to this woods near the house. It's actually behind the elementary school, and I know where all these logs have been cut down. The problem is you got to park up on a hill, and the logs are about a quarter mile into the woods. So I'm like, all right, let's do it. I had them carrying sticks, carrying giant rocks out to the car. Me and my wife both loaded up our cars. I'm running with logs. I mean, really pushing myself to the limit. And this is what I mean by practical application of my training. I've been training for years. And when a situation arises, most people wouldn't be able to do that. I was going in and out a quarter mile. Imagine carrying these logs, some of these motherfuckers had to have weighed close to 200. I mean, I don't know, maybe 150 pounds. Had them on my shoulder. I'm carrying them. I had to drop them. I'm pushing them with my legs. Like anything I could do to get these logs into my car, I was doing it. Eventually we go stack a bunch of logs, stop the water, make layers of logs, layers of rocks. I'm dumping extra dirt. And eventually we got it all filled in. It took me about a week of just nonstop work. I wasn't eating. I lost like 12 pounds that week because I was just drinking water. It was like 95 degrees the whole week, busting my fucking ass. But I wouldn't have been, I'm 44 years old. I don't know many 44-year-olds that could have done what I did. One of the things that I like to do that I heard a long time ago is have somebody get on the ground, lay flat, and see how quick they can get back up. So I call these get up, get downs. I've put that on earlier videos. Like I'll lay flat on my stomach, stand up, lay flat on my back, stand up, and I'll just repeat that. Sometimes I'll do that for 20, 30 minutes. So it's very easy for me to get up off the ground if I need to, if I can lay down real quick and get right back up real quick. Another thing that I do is long jumps. I'll stand in one side of my yard. I'll do one jump. I'll walk back to the starting point. I'll do two jumps, walk back to the starting point. I'll do three jumps. Sometimes I'll do all the way up to 15 jumps. That, paired with the tire flip. I have a 200-pound tractor tire that I flip. You can see me in the video. I'm hitting it with a sledgehammer. I'll pound it with a sledgehammer 20, 30 times. Then I'll flip the tire 20 times. Then I'll do it again. Just keep pounding. And my body gets used to moving. I'll run. Sometimes I was running up to like 5 miles, 6 miles at a time. I kind of slowed that down because you have to eat more. If you run a lot, your caloric intake has to be higher because you're going to burn up muscle too. I mean, you burn a lot of fat, but you burn muscle. And my miles are quick. Like I usually run an average pace of between 7:30 on the mile. So, and I was running like 4 and 5 miles, like I said, 6 miles sometimes at a time. Or sometimes I'll just like test myself, run sprints. Like I'll sprint one lap, walk a lap, sprint one lap, walk a lap. There's a guy on YouTube, knees over toes guy. I started doing like backwards sprints, backwards jogging, backwards walking. That's helped me a lot with my knees. Just a lot of movement stuff, man. Like you can't just lift weights. I watched a video one time of this huge bodybuilder guy and he tried to run a sprint and he ripped his fucking hamstring. Like never could walk right again because he wasn't doing that. Just because you look big and strong doesn't mean you can apply that in real life. I've seen giant guys that couldn't fight or couldn't move because they were so big, but they look scary. But who gives a fuck if you can't move? It doesn't make any sense. Like you're just looking big and strong for no reason. I don't know. I used to weigh up to 300 pounds. I was much stronger than I am now, but I feel a lot better and I can move a lot better now at 44 than I was when I was probably 25, 26 when I was that big. I could bench press in the 400s. Now, I mean, I'm benching in the 200s. I might be lucky if I get 300 pounds on a bench, but I don't care because I can move and I practice, running and jumping, stuff that most people after the age of 30, they stop running, they stop sprinting, they stop doing all that stuff because we have such a sedentary lifestyle. And then that paired with the terrible American diet, the standard diet is horrible. Like it makes me so mad when I go to the grocery store and I watch what people buy. I'm like, why are you doing that? Especially when they give it to their kids, man. I'm like, you're setting this kid up for failure because they're going to get used. You're building habits now. My kids, they will not eat fast food. They will get sick if they do. My mother-in-law has given my kids food from like McDonald's and they throw up because it's literal poison. You should not be eating any of the fast food. I don't care where it's from. I know it tastes good, but it's not good for you. People say it's too hard to cook. That's just being lazy, man. It's too hard to work out too. I have no time. I work 2 jobs. I have 3 kids. My wife works full time. I'm doing shit all the time, but I still manage to work out just about every fucking day because I make it a priority because I want to live long. I want to be able to move. I don't want to lay in a fucking hospital bed when I'm older in a wheelchair. This is my daughter, Mila. We are at the beach in Sarasota, Florida. And I told her to slow down and she wouldn't slow down. There's a big, I think it was a 3 or 4 lane highway, like a coastal highway, about 50 yards, and she took off and she ran and got into the highway. Do you remember that? Do you remember you going into the highway?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I wasn't in shape, so what was this? This was almost 3 years ago now. If I wasn't in shape, I wouldn't have been able to stop her. She was 50 yards from me. I had no shoes on. I was coming off of the beach. I kept yelling for her to stop. She wouldn't stop. So I kicked off. I did have sandals on, but you can't really run in flip flops. I had flip flops on. You can't really run with flip flops. So I kicked my flip flops off and I sprinted in my bare feet on the concrete as hard as I could and pushed myself. But if I hadn't been training, if I hadn't been running, I wouldn't have got her, and she probably wouldn't have made it because she almost got hit by a car. I got her just in the nick of time and picked her up. People were screaming and yelling. Nobody went to help her. Nobody even went to try to help you, did they? Except Daddy. But I sprinted probably one of the fastest I've ever ran in my life, and I got her. And that is one of the main reasons that I continue to run. And I train hard for real life situations, like the one we were talking about, my yard flooding and having to push myself. At 44 years old, I'm still able, because you never know when a situation may arise. And if you're not ready for it, right, you could have got hit by the car, right? But I saved you. You know, sometimes people need to hear shit like this. Sometimes somebody needs to tell you you're fat and you're lazy and you need to get up and do something. I've been there, man. People had to tell me. I was an addict for a long time. And I had to hear it repeatedly, like, you're fucking up. And then eventually one day it fucking clicked. And I'm like, what am I doing? So I get it, man. I've been overweight. I've been an addict. I know how hard it is to break habits. Trust me. And changing my diet, probably, what is it now? 14, 15 years ago. And it's gotten stricter and stricter each year. So my knowledge is based off, stuff that I've lived. I'm not just reading in a book. Like, I've experimented all the exercises I've done. I'll try things out and see how everybody's different. Everybody reacts different, but also just getting out there and doing something about it instead of talking about it, instead of watching videos, instead of reading is always better. So I'll see you guys on the next one.